So we have Srishti here with us. Srishti has cleared her TOEFL test with 109 out of 120. And this was the first participant who took the TOEFL test at home. So this was entirely different experience of taking the test at home itself. Srishti is a dentist, and she is one who is very, very sincere in terms of her work. So she, in fact, used to chase me all the time to get essays corrected and work done. So I think that is one thing which is very, very distinct about her. Her father also used to tell me that she's the one who is very, very sincere and she will drive the things instead of you doing it. And that was really correct. So, Srishti, congratulations once again. And I want to know your breakup, like how much you scored in each of the sections.
So for reading, I scored 30 on 30. In listening, I scored 28. And then speaking 25 and writing 26.
Oh, that is fantastic. So reading, first of all, let us start with reading itself. Now, when we talk about the reading section of TOEFL, the passages are very long, and you actually have to kind of read content from different domains and answer questions very quickly. And to add to that, the environment was also different. You were taking the test at home. So how did you prepare for reading, and what was your mindset while doing the reading test?
So like before starting, while preparing, I was basically into practicing as much as you can practice. Like you told me that, do these tests. So I did all those tests from both the books and both the softwares. And then I practiced passages from the book, like the practice tests. And also I practiced IELTS passages because the more the number of passages that you do, it will help you to improve your reading. So it will help you get familiar with the text, the kind of text that will be asked. So that is really helpful. And about the mindset, I would say that whenever you go for the exam, be calm and do not panic. That is the mantra to this. Basically, for me, it was my mantra. So because the first time I gave my test, I was in a lot of panic. Like 2 years ago, I gave my test, and that time I was in a lot of panic because of some identity issue in the beginning. So that was something that spoiled my reading for me. But this time I was very calm and composed, and I started reading, and I was taking 5 minutes per question in the beginning. Like the first 4 or 5 questions, I literally took a lot of time. So the first passage, like there are 3 passages and there are total 54 minutes. So about 18 minutes per passage approximately. So for the first passage, I took almost 23 to 25 minutes, which is a lot. So, but the last passage I completed within 12 minutes. So basically the key is when you get the hang of it, then it's easier to do it quickly. So take your time, adjust to the test in the beginning, and then you can just do the things quickly as you get the hang of it. It'll be easier for you.
Right.
So that was my mantra for reading.
So start in an easy and then pick up speed is what you are saying.
Yes, I personally did that. So I think it is a really good way because reading is the first section. So we're nervous, we're in panic. So we can't let that overtake us. We really need to stay focused and stay calm.
So while doing your preparation, did you separately prepare for vocabulary or you prepared more on the passages directly?
Sir, I feel that vocabulary that is asked for reading, especially, is not very complex or something that we've not heard of. It's something that we know and we can easily identify, and like we can just replace the words, like you told me that just replace the word where you feel that this word can be replaced by this word, and which one is the exact fit, like which one is the most close resemblance, I would say. So we know those words. Those words are not very difficult.
Yeah.
Most of the times, 99% of the times, the words are not difficult. You just need to keep your focus and be relaxed. I mean, it's nothing, you know.
Yeah. Was there any topic that was difficult to understand while doing reading, or like something which is not from your domain of knowledge and you have to answer questions on that?
No, sir, nothing like that. It was just that you just read the important information, read the question, go to the passage, look for the answer, answer the question. In fact, the last summary question, I had to read the passage at that time because I had to figure out the summary. I had not read the entire passage while answering the questions. So, you really don't need to understand the passage very much. It's most of the times the answers are very cut and clear, and you can easily pick them up from the passage.
Oh, that is great. Which means what you're saying is you didn't even read the passage very thoroughly. You are
Yes,
more
sir. Not
focused
not
on
the entire passage. Just
the
skim the
questions.
important information and just read the questions and find the answer for the passage.
Okay.
It's kind of a jugaad you have to apply.
So Jugaad method worked well without understanding.
Yes.
I mean, whenever required, you probably expanded the window to understand.
Yes, sir. Obviously, for the inference-based questions, the questions that require like
Yeah,
you to read the whole paragraph, at that time you need to read the paragraph. Like for inference-based questions and for rhetorical purpose questions, for that it is important to read the whole paragraph in which the answer is supposed to be given. But rest of the questions, like which are direct factual information, negative factual information questions, those are pretty direct, and in fact vocabulary questions also are pretty direct. You read the line and you know that this is the okay, this is the answer.
so
So
30,
those questions are direct, but for inference questions, yes, you definitely have to read. And also for the questions, the insert text questions, where we have to insert the line from
Mhm.
which is given into the passage. So in that question also you need to be very careful, like if to look for pronouns and what is the succeeding line and preceding line stating. So you have to literally think about it. So over there you have to read and understand, but the passages were not something that you cannot understand or something. So a few questions were there which were a little bit tricky, I would say, but all in all it was not difficult.
Okay. All right. Next thing which I want to ask is about like, was there like when you are doing the passage and when you were like answering the questions, did it ever happen that you were in a little doubt, but you still went with that question at that moment, or you knew that all the questions that you are doing are correct?
So for reading, I personally did not have any such question which I had. Like I had doubts in a few questions, like one or two questions, but like I knew by the method of elimination and by the direct this thing, I knew that this was the answer 90% of the this thing. Like 90% probability is that this is the answer. So I was sure mostly for reading. For listening, I was not sure of two questions, and those were the two questions that went wrong for me because at
Okay.
that time I lost focus a little bit. So that is
Okay, so for reading, it means you are absolutely confident about the questions while doing itself. So at that time
it.
itself, you
Yes.
knew that the questions are correct, which is great. Okay, anything else about reading? You said you told about process of elimination. You told about not reading the passage and answering the questions.
Yes, so
And
you really need to skim only the important information. And you also had advised me that just read the starting paragraph and then the last paragraph and just the first line of each paragraph in the body. So I
yeah,
followed that and it was really helpful. Like it saves a lot of time because you have limited time,
yes,
and it's better to do it as a question based this thing because reading the whole passage will take a lot of time.
yeah.
So I
But
don't
then
think that
still,
is required.
30 out of 30 is really commendable. And it does show the kind of work you have done. I mean, all tactics and strategies do help, but then end of the day, the kind of passages and the practice that you did, I think it
Yes, so
exposed you.
practicing is the key to everything. Like you have
Yeah,
to practice.
yes. Okay, so let's go to listening now. In listening, also you scored 28 on 30, and you're telling that you knew which two questions went wrong. My question to you
Yes,
is,
sir, because
like, when you knew that these two questions have gone wrong, did you lose focus, lose confidence, or you kept on telling yourself that, okay, fine, just two questions, let's move on?
so what I did was I didn't exactly know that it will be wrong, but I did know out of the four choices which is the best choice. I was not sure by method of elimination, by direct answering. I had lost focus at the time when the question was asked, because mostly the questions are direct and you can answer easily. Listening is very easy. You can answer very easily, but some questions they ask from like a particular thing that was not when you hear the passage you don't feel that it is very important, like while the lecture or the conversation is being played you don't think that this is very important, you don't make a note of it, and you don't tend to remember that, and sometimes you even miss hearing that also. So I
Yeah.
lost focus at that time. I could not really hear that part very well, so that is why I didn't know what answer would be correct, so I just clicked on a random answer, and I took a guess for both those
Oh,
questions.
but you
So
did,
I know that both of them went wrong for me.
yeah. But you did not allow that moment to affect rest of the questions.
No, sir, because obviously if you can't, you cannot do anything about it. So you just have to do what you can do, like, move forward and just continue with your work.
Great, great, great. So 28 on 30 is again a fantastic score. And I think listening requires a lot of presence of mind.
Yes, sir, it
Because,
requires a lot of focus. Even if you don't take notes, it's fine. Like I took notes, notes help you keep focus. But the main thing is to keep focus.
how long were the notes? Like, were you noting one or two words, or you were taking elaborate
No,
notes?
sir, I wrote down everything because till the time I'm writing, I hold my focus, I hold my this thing, attention. But when I'm not taking notes, then I lose focus. So it is
You,
very important for me to take notes. I mean, my personal opinion, but yeah.
so to keep yourself focused, you said that
Yes, sir. Notes are not very important from the point perspective of answering the questions, because most questions are direct. You remember the information, and I
yeah.
hardly looked up my notes for answering. But for holding the attention, yes, notes help you a lot.
Okay. Okay.
And
And
there is a specific format on which you can take notes for home TOEFL, especially. Like you have to have a transparent sheet with a white sheet inside it, or on a whiteboard with a marker, and you have to erase it at the end of the test and show it to the proctor on the uh,
yeah,
the
and
camera.
I mean, this must have been a very different experience taking the test at home itself, or the structure was
Yes, sir,
exact.
it was different, but it was not very much different from the. So basically, what happened was he asked me to show him around the room, like with the camera, and I showed him around the room and all the four walls. Then he had a look on my table, under the table, everywhere, and then he said, "Okay, now I'm starting your test." He started my test. My reading, listening went on, and I asked him if I could take a break. So he said, "Yes, you can take a break. You can go out of the room, but when you come back, you have to again show me around, and then
Okay.
I'll restart your test."
Was this person very friendly or very rude, or how was that?
I hardly talked to him for like 30 seconds in the beginning and 10 seconds during my break. And in the end, he just said that, okay, just erase your sheet and show it to me. So doesn't matter if he's rude or he's not going to do anything. It's just recording and observing you so that, you
Were there
basically
multiple?
they're very friendly. They don't say anything. They're minding their own business. They're just
Okay.
observing you on their camera.
So were there multiple people taking the test together, or you were not aware as far as you are concerned?
No, you cannot see the proctor. You can only hear the proctor. The proctor can see you. He can hear you. He can see
Okay.
all the activities going on.
Okay. 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 So it was, I think, much better than the test when you go to the center where there are so many people and
Sir, I think
sometimes.
it is better to take at the center because sometimes it is difficult to control your, homemates, your family especially, to stay quiet and everything. So I had to instruct my family to, just not
To keep
make
quiet.
noise and not
Okay.
come inside the room because they'll not understand that way. Otherwise, you don't be strict with them. I
Oh,
really had to tell them, ki, no, you don't have to come.
all right, all right. Yeah, so this is something which is very, very new with the advent of COVID and everything, that people have
Yes,
started
yes.
taking tests at home. And I understand what you're saying, that there are chances of disturbance there. But at least they
Yes,
are
sir, because
not.
I've heard people, they get disqualified if there is a noise or if, somebody else enters the room, or they
Yeah.
even try to close the door with their hand, like while taking the test. If they try to close the door, if they try to move, if they feel that anything is wrong, they will cancel your test and they will not give you a result.
Oh,
So you
okay.
get
Okay.
disqualified then.
So this is important that people have to make proper arrangement beforehand.
Yes, sir, you have to. Like, I cleared my room, I removed my TV, my computer, everything. You cannot have another computer or phone or laptop, anything in your room. So
Okay.
there was just my bed, my table, and the four walls. That's it.
Okay. I'm sure the walls didn't help you.
No.
Okay. Now let's talk about writing. So I think writing is one piece about which all the participants are a little scared, because every single comma, full stop, word choice, there are so many opportunities of committing errors there. So how did you prepare for writing?
So basically, I was not a very good. I'm not a very good writer, and I was not a very good writer, and I never expected scoring 26 also. So basically, good vocabulary matters. Like whatever vocabulary you can think of, you really need to put it in,
Mm-hmm.
because it really helps. And for learning vocabulary, we can always, use ready-made these things. Like you had this list of words and phrases. So uh, I had done it before, and then just before the day of the exam, I revised it again, like two, three times. I went through it, and I just tried to make sentences out of it, and I tried to imbibe it in my, normal language and everything. So that helped me. And the other thing was that the integrated passage.
Yeah.
So the integrated passage, you have to like mention the question asks you to summarize the lecture. So we really have to work on the fact that you summarize the lecture mainly. Reading, you have to write, but you don't have to elaborate on the reading part of it. So
Mm-hmm.
we just have to make sure that we carefully do the lecture part,
Right.
because
Right.
I read somewhere on this thing internet that people usually do not summarize the lecture. They try to, refute the points in the reading and everything. But the lecture is not properly summarized, and reading is taking more of the part of the passage. So that is why they lose marks. So
Yeah.
I try to do that, and you should always leave like at least 3 or 4 minutes to revise at the end, because I
Yeah.
am a spontaneous writer, so I start writing as soon as the question comes up, and then points come to my mind, and then I start writing. So some people try to, do it like in the first 5 minutes. They try to prepare notes and prepare a format or a layout in which they're going to write. But I start writing as soon as I get the question, and I try to leave time at the end to revise, because many of my mistakes, I make silly mistakes at the end. Sometimes I miss out on words. Sometimes I write down wrong spellings. So I need to really go through it and review it to, correct my mistakes, so that I don't lose marks there, because typing errors can occur and you can lose marks there.
Yeah. Which means
So that
this
is,
is again important, that one has to discover his own style. As you said, you are a spontaneous writer, which
yes,
means
sir.
like you, but I always suggest people to plan first. And if I have to write, I kind of plan first. I think for being a spontaneous writer, one has to practice a lot so that your first draft and first collection of thoughts themselves fall into place. So I think you might have used some kind of format to write, like if
Yes,
you
sir. Template. I had a template for integrated practice. You can
have,
make your own template, or you can copy from the internet, mix 2 or 3 templates, make your own. And I did that. I made my own template, and I followed that template very religiously. But obviously, you have to be flexible with it. Like for example, my question, it was not exactly refuting the claims of the passage in the lecture, So what I did was, it was basically providing solutions. So you have to be flexible with your template. Like on the day of the exam, you might get a question that is not exactly on the pattern that you learned. So you need to
Yeah.
be, need to learn to be flexible with it. But you should have a template so that you know a basic layout that this is to be followed, and you know it correctly. That okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. And for essay also, was the topic familiar to you or it was something different? What was the topic, if you remember that?
So the topic for essay was how much my topic. Uh, my topic was should governments work on improving healthcare? No, my topic was is cleaning the environment the best way to improve healthcare.
Okay. Okay.
So it
So,
was a confusing topic, but
mhm.
it was okay.
Okay. So it was like you
Like
have to.
you need to understand what the question is trying to ask. Like you always advised me on this. Like I many a times I had written passages that were not relating to the point of the question, and they were not answering the question well, and then you
Yeah.
helped me address them.
So one thing which I realized during your practice was that your English was absolutely fine initially also. There were not many mistakes of grammar. There were just a few. But then I think the important was to thing was to address the question very, very directly, because sometimes we end up taking a substream or beating around the bush. And what is expected is that we just answer the specific question in the simplest possible way. For example, in this case, if the question is that the best way to improve health is to have a clean environment. So it's a very straight question. Is it the best way or not best way? So we can just answer that part rather than talking about environment in general or health in general.
Yes,
I
yes.
think yeah, that is something good.
Like
And
we can address the points. Like what I wrote 3 points. One was air pollution. That addressing air pollution will help your respiratory illnesses. Then addressing water pollution will help your waterborne diseases like cholera, etc. And then the
yeah,
third point was greenery. That if you enhance greenery, then mental problems will be reduced. So
great,
that
yeah.
way I arranged my passage.
Which means you started with yes itself, and then you had 3 points for it, that tuck, 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 and you finished it. That is great. And the last thing was speaking. And how was the speaking test? You scored 25 there. Uh,
Yes, so speaking earlier I had scored 27. My last time speaking was my best this thing, but this time it was not so great. Because for speaking, what I did was like I made the wrong choice. In the beginning, for the first question, I made the wrong choice, and I did not have any supporting claim to it. So I could not like the first. I elaborated. My question was, is hard work more important or is talent more important to musicians and artists? So I started with hard work, that hard work is more important, and I had 1 point in mind, but I could not think of the other point. So the first point that I said was that with hard work we can achieve anything, and even if we work hard, talent does not matter. So, but then I could not think of another point.
okay,
So
okay,
that is where I think I lost. So I paraphrased it and just to complete the time I just spoke something for a second reason, but I was not very sure on it. So I think I lost marks. But it was okay. Like the third question, fourth question, they were fine. I think for the sixth question also I could not be very comprehensive and precise. So I think I lost marks there. But all in all, we
okay.
have to be comprehensive and precise. That is the key to speaking. So
Great. Yeah, I think you did well overall. And this is absolutely fantastic performance. I think this would be a great help to all the aspirants who are going to take TOEFL test later. Uh, I think you took almost 2 months time to prepare. How much time was that?
sir, approximately 2 months, like yeah, a week less than 2 months maybe.
Yeah. And I think one important point about Srishti was that she was very consistent throughout. Even when there were off days, I saw that you used to write an essay and send to me. And So you never lost touch. You were always in the groove of the test, even when it was the off time of COVID or whatever going on.
So because I feel that I only work hard and practice, and then I can achieve what I can achieve. Otherwise, it's very difficult for me to achieve anything.
This is very, very great
So
quality. I mean, most of the people start depending on the trainer, and I was depending on you because you were doing all the work and you were pushing me. So I knew that she will do all the work. I just have to correct it. So, and you did more than what I asked, which was fantastic. You always asked me for more questions, so you were pushing me all the time. And I think that is something commendable, and this is something very, very important for anyone going for these tests. They are not very difficult, or they are not something which people cannot clear. The only thing is that you really have to just be very clear about the format. Like you said, you use the structures very well for writing. Similarly, for reading, some techniques really work very well, like reading the first and the last paragraph. Don't ever trying to not trying to understand the passage, but just trying to understand the question. So this jugaad works well, and I think overall it was a great performance, Srishti. So thank you so much, and all the very best to you. Probably you get admission to a fantastic college, and you get great success in your life.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.